Oliver was only 14 years old, but his eyes already carried a quiet sadness that most people never noticed. He lived in a small house with his parents. From the outside, everything looked normal. The walls were clean, the door was strong, and every morning sunlight quietly entered through the curtains as if nothing was wrong. But inside that house, there was no peace. Every evening, as the sun slowly disappeared, the same routine began. Voices would rise from downstairs. His father's voice loud and filled with anger, his mother's voice tired and broken. "Why don't you understand me?" his father would shout. "I am tired of this life," his mother would respond. Oliver would sit in his room, holding his school book in his hands, but he wasn't reading. His eyes stayed fixed on the door, and his ears absorbed every word, every shout, every painful silence in between. Sometimes he covered his ears, sometimes he closed his eyes tightly, and sometimes, in a voice so soft it barely existed, he whispered, "Please stop." But no one ever heard him. At school, Oliver was not like the other boys. While they laughed loudly, played games, and shared jokes, he stayed quiet. He sat in the last row, avoiding eye contact, as if he didn't want to be seen at all. One day, his teacher noticed. "Oliver, why are you so silent these days?" she asked gently. He looked up, forced a small smile, and replied, "I'm fine, ma'am." But he wasn't fine. Inside, it felt like something heavy was always pressing against his heart, something he couldn't explain, and something no one seemed to ask about deeply enough. During lunch break, he sat alone under a tree, watching other students laugh and talk together. He wanted to walk over to sit with them, to be part of something normal, but something inside him stopped him. A quiet voice in his mind whispered, "You don't belong here." One evening, everything changed. His parents called him into the living room. They were sitting far apart, not even looking at each other. The air felt cold, like something had already ended before being said out loud. "Oliver, we need to tell you something," his mother said softly. His father looked away. "We have decided to live separately." Oliver frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" His mother took a deep breath. "It means we are getting divorced." The word felt strange, heavy, and distant, like something that belonged in other people's lives, not his. He looked at both of them, his voice slow and uncertain. "Does that mean we are not a family anymore?" No one answered, and that silence hurt more than anything they could have said. After that, everything became quieter. Oliver stayed with his mother. His father moved to another city. The house no longer echoed with arguments. There were no loud voices anymore, no shouting, no tension filling the walls. But there was something else, something worse. There was no laughter either, no warmth, no feeling of home. His mother worked long hours and came home exhausted. She spoke less, smiled less, and seemed lost in her own thoughts. Oliver spent most of his time alone. Sometimes he waited for his father to call. Sometimes he stared at old family photos, trying to remember how things used to feel. Sometimes he just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling for hours. One night, in the quiet darkness, he whispered to himself, "This house is so quiet, but why does it feel so empty?" The silence began to grow inside him. To escape it, Oliver started going outside more often. He didn't want to stay in that house where everything felt lifeless. One evening, he came across a group of boys in his neighborhood. They were loud, laughing without care, speaking freely as if nothing in the world could touch them. One of them, Samir, looked at him and smiled. "Hey, why do you always look so serious? Come sit with us." Oliver hesitated, but then he sat down. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. Days turned into weeks. He started spending more time with them. They skipped school sometimes, stayed out late, laughed at things that didn't really matter, but it felt better than being alone. One day, Samir pulled out something small and unfamiliar. Try this, he said casually. It'll make you forget everything. Oliver stared at it. His heart began to beat faster. In that moment, memories rushed through his mind, the arguments, the silence, the empty house, the feeling of being unseen. And then a thought came quietly. No one cares anyway. Slowly, he reached out his hand. After that day, things began to change. Oliver stopped doing his homework. He avoided his teacher's eyes. He came home late, often without saying a word. His mother noticed, but she was too tired to truly understand. Oliver, where were you? She asked one night. Outside, he replied shortly. Don't stay out late, she said, but her voice had no strength behind it. Oliver walked to his room, closed the door, and sat in darkness. Not just around him, but inside him. One day at school, everything finally caught up with him. Oliver suddenly collapsed. The classroom filled with panic as his teacher rushed to him. When he opened his eyes, he saw her face, worried, concerned, present. Oliver, what is happening to you? She asked softly. At first he said nothing, but then his eyes filled with tears, and suddenly everything broke. I feel alone, he said, his voice shaking. My parents always fought. Then they left each other, and now no one has time for me. He struggled to breathe between words. I tried to forget everything, but I lost myself. His teacher didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She just listened. And sometimes that's all someone needs. After a moment, she said gently, Oliver, what happened in your life is not your fault. He looked at her. No one had ever told him that before. You are not alone, she continued, and you can still change your path. Something inside him shifted. It didn't fix everything instantly, but it gave him something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. With her help, Oliver slowly began to change. It wasn't easy. Some days were better, some days were heavy again. But he tried. He stopped meeting the boys who pulled him in the wrong direction. He picked up his books again. He started paying attention in class. And slowly, he started finding himself again. One evening, he came home and saw his mother sitting quietly. Instead of walking past her, he sat down beside her. Mom, can we talk? He asked. She looked at him surprised. Then she smiled. That night, they talked for a long time about everything they had both been holding inside. For the first time in a long time, they understood each other. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. His parents were still apart. The house was still quiet. But the silence had changed. It was no longer empty. Oliver had found something inside himself, a small light that refused to go out. And he realized something important. Pain can break you, but it can also teach you how to rebuild. And sometimes, all it takes is one person who truly listens.